Episode 44. Matt talking over me as we get started, but that's okay because that's what Matt Urich does. I'm Scott Sternal, joined by Ben Russo, who's drinking water out of a Wendy's cup.
I am.
And Matt, who for a second straight week is broadcasted from my porch. How is it out there, Matt?
A little muggy, but it's all right. I'll take it.
You know what? If Amanda D'Aso was here from back in our days at NS Radio, she could provide us with that weather update. But Matt, unfortunately, I don't believe you are qualified.
That's an old school reference there.
Yeah.
I'm sure two of our listeners will get that reference.
Maybe two.
2 of our 5.
Maybe.
2 or 5 million.
So
Yeah, that's what I meant.
So there it is. All right, well, it's 72 degrees. It says it feels like 72, but Matt's telling me that is a lie.
I don't know. I'm fat.
Thanks, Maury.
The lie detector determined that was a lie. Can we talk Maury for like 45 seconds? Will you guys humor me on some Maury talk?
Sure.
Great. So I love the paternity test episodes. I think the lie detector tests are way overrated. And I know there's not much of a difference, but there is nothing better than watching like the man come out and he's booed when the woman has had sex with like 17 different guys in a month. And the guy comes out and he gets booed and the woman is like, it's all like, oh, and it's like, well, listen, let's stop with the awes. Like we can boo everybody here. I'm not saying don't boo the guy. I'm just saying maybe think about the fact that like she's had 17 partners and maybe she deserves a little booing herself.
Yeah, but no man's going to stand up and do his thing, so...
My problem is that as I've gotten older, I don't find it entertaining anymore because my immediate thought is that poor kid.
Oh, yeah. The poor kid, for sure.
I could care less about both of those parents. It's the kid that I'm just like, this kid, his mom's been on this TV show 11 times, still hasn't found the dad, and he's just in the back room like, he's 18 now, and he's like, what the fuck? I don't even care anymore. Like, come on, Mom.
And and when did Maury all of a sudden become that's all he does?
When did Maury like never age and actually like roll the clock back? Because that guy's like 82 and looks like he's actually lost years in the last decade.
Well, money buys you a lot of surgery, so.
He's 77 years old. That's crazy.
It's almost 83.
That's only 6 years away. Listen, I know
and just
some
like
of
this
us...
segment, and just like this segment was only going to be 45 seconds.
So,
Right.
anyways, Maury's awesome, and it is my guilty pleasure on TV. And I'm gonna say that my favorite of all of the "You're Not the Father" moments ever, and it's on YouTube. There's one where like the woman is black and the man is white, and the baby is clearly not white at all, and the dad's sitting there like, I really think it's my kid, and everybody in the crowd just shaking their head like, dude, this isn't a race thing, this isn't anything, this is just like, we're concerned that you're an idiot. Like that baby's not even close. So I love that. That's one of my favorite things on the not the podcast. That'd be a great podcast though. So there's that. All right. Let's start it out here. We've got at the top of the list, apparently we have to discuss Colin Kaepernick's patriotism. I guess.
I mean, it's irrelevant.
Well, I think it's I think it's
one of those controversial topics that we try to avoid, but at this point, whatever.
Well, I don't mean apparently for us. I mean like if you understand what the military means and what America means, Colin Kaepernick is absolutely doing exactly what our military fights for, right? Like, you can disagree with him, but he's not un-American, right? Like, not standing for the national anthem doesn't make him not American, right? Like, I'm not off base with that, am I?
No.
And
right? So go ahead, Ben.
I hate using these comparisons because it's different times, but I mean, you just go look at like Muhammad Ali. I mean, he's the most recent example. Obviously, he just passed away, but you know, dodging the draft. I mean, he went out and said, "I'm not going to fight for a country that doesn't fight for me." Well, is this not like pretty much the same thing? I mean, he's not saying. I mean,
It's a little different because Muhammad Ali ultimately chose to not go to Vietnam and went to jail instead. So there's that part of it, and I think there is a difference between being sent to war for something you don't believe in and not staying the national anthem. So Muhammad Ali was doing much, much more, and I think ultimately, no matter what some people tell you about the Vietnam War, I think it was. I would be willing to bet that the Vietnam War was a lot more split
probably.
than
But
people want to have like a remembrance of. So like when Muhammad Ali like did that, it was like, oh, we're split on this. Whereas I feel like most people are like, it's still the national anthem. So like even if like you understand what Colin Kaepernick's doing, you still stand there and go, okay, well, I disagree with you doing that because it's the national anthem and you should stand for the national anthem, right? Like there's more against Colin Kaepernick because there's not like a large percentage of the United States that's going F the Vietnam War. Like nobody's standing up and going F the Star Spangled Banner, it sucks, right? Like that's just not happening. So I think that might be part of it, but that's just a.
I guess my side there's two things. Number one, I guess I don't want to say I don't care. That's not the right word to use, but frankly, I don't care. Like, do whatever you want. I mean, I don't have to like it, but I'm not going to sit here and bash you for it. Number two, you see these memes coming out where it's like, they show like a picture of Colin Kaepernick standing next to a Ferrari, going, "Oh, this is what oppression looks like," or "This is what white privilege looks like." I mean, that is the one that irritated me more than anything because it goes this way. So what you're saying with those memes is you're number one, you're assuming that he's never been discriminated against, he's never experienced racism, whatever the case may be. Even if I buy that he never experienced it, what you're saying is if you don't experience something, you don't have a right to stand up against something or in support of something. So I would then go, if you've never had breast cancer, how can you say that you support against breast cancer? You've never had it. You don't know what it's like. If you've never experienced domestic violence, how can you say you're against domestic violence if you've never experienced it? You don't know what it's like. You don't know what it, what I mean? Like, you don't understand like what it's like to go through that. So how can you?
But they wear colors and ribbons. They don't sit during the national anthem. That's the difference.
Right. Exactly. So, but that's the problem I have is you're telling him, well, you're rich. So how do you know what it's like? Well, guess what? Have we seen the movie Straight Outta Compton? Do we know that background? Ice Cube's like a goddamn billionaire now. So you're going to tell me that he didn't grow up with racism and all that other crap in Compton and all that? I mean, give me a break. Just because you have money doesn't mean you didn't experience something at another point. Well, and even if you didn't experience it, it doesn't mean you can't stand up in support of something that is wrong. Like, that's what I don't understand.
Well, and there's the old Chris Rock sketch, which is he does like a whole thing where he's like, how many white men in this room would honestly trade places with me? Right? Like Chris Rock, I mean, you have, very prominent African American celebrities that say, hey, like, even though I'm rich, doesn't mean that I avoid racism still. It doesn't mean that I avoid, being somebody looking at me and saying, no, you're not qualified because of the color of their skin. Whether people want to believe that or not, I think anybody can agree. Well, that exists on some level, right? So, Matt, you haven't chimed in. You want to? I mean, you were sitting on my couch today reading every dumb tweet known to man, and you were reading me all the dumb hot takes on Sunday as well. So I don't know if you want to go with some of that, but feel free to go any direction.
So, here's my thing, and to your guys' point about the people who saying he doesn't understand or know what it's like to be oppressed, and maybe he doesn't know what it's like to be oppressed to a certain extent,
Right.
but what he's doing is not exactly just for him. I mean, he's doing it because he has the platform to do it. He's doing it because he represents a group of people, and I think that's what people have the issue separating with him. The thing that I really liked today, I saw it was Sarah Spain from ESPN had said that for how many people are going out of their way in the NFL world to criticize Colin Kaepernick, how many of these people have those same stances when domestic violence is an issue? So, for example, she uses the New York Giants with their kicker, Josh Brown, who I believe Josh Brown was, he was arrested on a charge of assault in the fourth degree domestic violence, and he was suspended 1 game by the NFL. The Giants
and his wife stated there were at least 20 incidents.
Yes, and so the Giants re-signed him. He was not part of the team when this arrest happened. His contract was up. The Giants re-signed him. Guys like Jason Pierre-Paul say, quote, "We're all family around here. People have their own problems to handle. He's still our brother, and we'll look past it." Eli Manning, I don't think there's a whole lot to say. If Josh wants to say something, he can explain his case. And then their guard, Justin Pugh, says, obviously you have to be here for your teammate. I don't want to get too into it because I don't know all the details, but all we can do is support our teammate, make sure we're there for him. And then this Pugh goes out of his way to make sure people know that he's going to be standing on the sideline to stand up for the anthem. And it's things like that. If these people are so worried about something like that, so worried about him not standing during the national anthem, okay, you have to have that same approach for the domestic violence people that litter the NFL. I mean, it's seemingly every few weeks, and maybe I'm exaggerating here, but it seems, more often than not, there's these stories of not stories, but these instances of guys getting arrested for domestic violence, or there's just these terrible things that they're doing, and yet this is where people decide they want to draw a line in the sand with patriotism. And it's frustrating because it's silly. Colin Kaepernick's right to not stand during the national anthem is exactly what the flag represents. And people who fought for his freedom are the ones that fought for his freedom to have that expression, to do what he express the way he wants to feel. And somebody else pointed this out. I saw it on Twitter earlier. I don't remember who tweeted it or retweeted it, whatever, that for all these people that are complaining about him not standing during the national anthem, look at all the people that are eating, walking around the stadium when this happens, going to the bathroom when this happens. And I understand.
Matt, can I jump in real quick?
Sure.
So I would love to know the number of hot takes that have come out of Chicago.
Mm-hmm.
Because a lot of these people would probably say the same thing, which is when the national anthem plays, you're silent, your hand is on your heart, and you're looking at the flag. And I think you all know where I'm going with this.
In the meantime, they're eating nachos.
Oh no,
you're not a baseball helmet. You're talking about the Blackhawks.
I am. I'm going straight to that because I'm guessing a bunch of those people with those hot takes of Kaepernick being disrespectful, by nature, what happens at Hawks home games
or road games,
a number of people would find to be incredibly disrespectful. And I'm not saying that that's not a cool tradition. If you think that is, whatever. I'm not saying that it's necessarily wrong. I think our country has been built in such a way that if you want to celebrate our country in different ways, like that's what you should be allowed to do. Just like if you want to live your life with a different religion, go ahead. You want to have a gun, go ahead. You don't want to have one, go ahead. You want to have freedom of the press and talk about why our government sucks complete balls, knock yourself out without oppression, right? With no recourse from your government. And it drives me crazy that the hot take society is that Kaepernick is this awful, rotting waste of garbage, but in all reality, You're right. There are people walking around eating baseball helmets full of nachos. You have people that still forget to take their cap off at games during the anthem. It just it's your it, the national anthem is not. We're lucky we live in a country where our national anthem is not something that the government says this is exactly how you're going to do it, and if you don't do it this way, you are going to face criminal charges. Because there are countries that would do that to you. There are countries that would do that to you without even batting an eye, and it bothers me that so many people in this country think, no, Kaepernick's wrong and he needs to stand. That's exactly the that is so anti-American. And all that being said, I totally am on board with anybody that's like, listen, I know what he's trying to do. I think that's the wrong avenue. I think that's the wrong way to do it. Because you know what? In the same breath, that is your choice. You can disagree with that. And I don't know. It's just the whole thing's ridiculous.
I think like what Matt said is he's a guy who's using the platform he's earned or been given, however you want to look at it, as a professional athlete. I mean, imagine if Colin Kaepernick, the third shift worker at UPS, came out and said, I'm not standing for the national anthem because of oppression. People would just laugh at him and it wouldn't be a story. But here we are talking about it again. He's raising awareness for something, and it just like anything, it's split down the middle. You got the 50% that says, wait, what? What's white privilege? I don't understand what they're talking about. And then there's the other side who gets it, and you understand what he's doing. You may or may not agree with how he's doing it, but at least he's bringing awareness to something that exists. I mean, that's what it comes down to. I mean, he's using the rights and the freedoms we were given, by our brave troops and stuff like that. But at the end of the day, it's his opinion. It's his right to do this. So I don't know what else more there is to say about it, to be honest.
Matt, closing thought on this so we can get away from Colin Kaepernick's patriotism?
I think Ben hit the nail on the head there. It's just it's one of those things that I'm sure this is gonna remain a story for another week or two, and then probably just go by the wayside because that's just sort of how we work.
Well, let's leave it there. That's probably the best place. Mm-hmm. So feel how you want about it, but I will say I think calling it un-American is the wrong way to go. When you really understand what our Constitution and those types of things mean. And I don't think that's a hot take. I think that's just an understanding of our political system, which something like this proves how broken it is. I'm gonna skip number 2 on the countdown. We'll do college football at the end real quick. Let's hit these more minor stories because the Teddy Bridgewater story I thought was gonna be major when we came on tonight. Ben, you changed the weekly a few hours ago, and now it's just it's a non-contact ACL.
I mean, it's a huge story for the simple fact it does. But yeah, the events leading up to it. I mean, we talked about this a lot, in our little group text that we have. I mean, this was a non-contact injury with, an ambulance coming to take him. Matt told us about I didn't personally see the reports, but I obviously believe it. Matt told me the reports of him being sedated for an MRI. I mean, when you're talking about a guy needing to be sedated for an MRI, like your initial thought was something like that was like, Jesus Christ, like, what is this guy going through? Like, what happened out there? I mean, because nowadays they have open MRIs, so, like, normally my first thought with sedation would be, like, maybe he's claustrophobic, can't handle the MRI machine, but they have open MRIs and stuff like that now where that shouldn't be a concern. So, Matt also said that the report of Coach Zimmer calling Teddy Bridgewater's mom directly to let him know what happened, like, I mean, we started talking about it, it's like, this seems like it could be heading down the career-threatening stage.
Hey, Matt, they're going to take your leg. We all thought it. That crossed our minds, didn't it? Like, we're all sitting there going, they're going to take his fucking leg.
I was like, did his leg, like, blow up? I mean, is he going to lose this limb? I mean, that's what it was going down. And then it was reported of, the ACL and the knee dislocation. And, yeah, I mean, I think it changes the landscape, specifically of the NFC Central, but I mean the NFC in general. I mean, I don't know about your guys' picks, but I think at this point, going into the season as is, I was probably leading Minnesota out of the NFC Central. It would be them and Green Bay. I probably would have picked Minnesota. At the very least, they were a wild card team. Now I think they're maybe going to challenge for a wild card, but probably on the outside looking in at the end of this.
Not unless they trade for some. Sean Hill is not leading this team to the playoffs.
They don't need Sean Hill, though. They have their awesome defense and one hell of a running back, and that's enough to get you there. And the NFC is not that great. But, yeah, you would get in.
They don't even have Christian Ponder at this point.
Sean Hill's better than Christian Ponder.
No.
Yeah. Yes.
No.
Absolutely 100,000%, Scott.
Sean Hill hasn't started 10 games in a season before and never been to the playoffs. Sean Hill is not better than Christian Ponder. That doesn't mean that Christian Ponder is better than Sean Hill. It just means that they barely made the playoffs with Christian Ponder. They're not making the playoffs with Sean Hill.
You got to, real quickly, you got to look through my Twitter. I retweeted it earlier, and it's this picture of Sean Hill, and it says, from a certain angle, Sean Hill looks
I saw that.
like Jay Cutler got stung by bees. It's pretty good. But no, I fully believe that Christian Ponder is terrible, and I would take Sean Hill over Christian Ponder any day.
I wouldn't even need to think about that. That's not even a maybe I should. No, it's Sean Hill over Christian Ponder 10 times out of 10.
I'm really looking forward to when Sean Hill looks really terrible, and I could say, "Yep, still wouldn't take Christian Ponder, would you?" In about 3 weeks here, because it's not going to take that long.
I've seen Christian Ponder.
And what have you seen from Sean Hill that makes you go, "Yeah, Sean Hill, woo"?
He's not Christian Ponder. That's what I've seen.
Yeah, and that might be terrifying. That he's not even at least Christian Ponder, because I just think he's going to be awful.
I wonder if I honestly wonder, to go back on the Kaepernick stuff, if Minnesota would consider trading for him. I mean, he clearly doesn't have a fit in San Francisco, and this has nothing to do with the his protests.
Did they not just get rid of him? I mean, Christian Ponder was out of football last year, wasn't he?
Yeah. Yeah, you know where he is now. He's with the 49ers.
San Francisco, yeah.
He's married to that one woman.
Yeah, the ESPN reporter. Can't think of her name right now.
Oh, my God.
But anyways. But no, I wonder...
Just for shit, Scott, Sean Hill, 49 touchdowns, 30 interceptions his career. Christian Ponder, 38 touchdowns, 36 interceptions.
Okay.
So better touchdown-interception ratio, better quarterback rating.
Easier to do that when you're in limited. Better completion he played in 11 games in 2010. That's his high. He played 3 games last year, went 2 for 7. He played 9 games for the Rams, went 145 for 229. So he looked okay for the Rams. Mm-hmm. 8 touchdowns, 7 interceptions. That's the extent of what he does.
So you would say in his limited action, he's actually done okay.
I would say he's been a mediocre quarterback.
So mediocre is average, and Christian Ponder is below average.
No, Christian Ponder would be mediocre as well.
I think calling him mediocre is a stretch, but
then if you're gonna say calling Christian Ponder mediocre is a stretch, then calling Sean Hill mediocre is a stretch, because it's not.
He's literally better in every category.
he played a bunch of games against scrubs in games that didn't matter. Christian Ponder was the quarterback of a Vikings team that went to the playoffs, and then when they got to the playoffs and he couldn't play, they looked like absolute garbage. I'm not saying that's strictly because Christian Ponder didn't play, but when they put Joe Webb out there, everyone went, "Yep, that game's over." At least with Christian Ponder, it's they have at least a 1% chance to win this. Christian Ponder still led an NFL team to the playoffs, and I understand that doesn't exactly mean the world. But Sean Hill couldn't even start for a team in this league, and he's been in it since 2002, maybe.
2005.
2005. I don't know why it went all the way back to 2002 here on his stats thing. But he's been in the league for 11 years. He's never been able to be a regular starter. At least Christian Ponder for a year was able to be.
Why was Christian Ponder a starter, Scott? And give me an honest answer.
First round pick.
Okay. So he didn't deserve to start. He started because they spent a first-round pick on him. So let's not pretend that, he's this all-encompassing great quarterback that deserved a chance. He started because he was a first-round pick.
Yeah,
That's why he started.
I would
with a team that had the greatest running back on the planet.
Sure. but he still started. He still was on a team where he was the starting quarterback of what would have been a playoff team, and he would have started round 1 of the playoffs. Sean Hill can't even get close to that. So I wouldn't
He's
say
still statistically better in every category, so I'm not sure how
great.
you can argue that.
Let's deep dive into like his one game with the Lions in 2012 and his one game where he did nothing with the Lions in 2013 and his 2 games with the Lions in 2011. Right? Like it's easy to throw like passes in garbage time against scrubs. Right? Take all that crap out.
Or it's really easy to come off the bench in the middle of a game and be successful, or come in not expecting to start and be successful, whereas Christian Ponder knew he was going to start and suck balls.
Made the playoffs.
No, the Vikings made the playoffs. That's
Sure.
like saying Trent Dilfer won a Super Bowl. Yes, hypothetically he won a Super Bowl, but why did they win the goddamn Super Bowl? It had nothing to do with Trent Dilfer. If you're going to go this route, then you should be arguing Tim Tebow should be a starting quarterback in the NFL. Made the playoffs, won a game. Made the playoffs, won a game.
Beat the Bears too.
Again, I'm not saying
You
Christian,
are.
I'm not saying
Absolutely
Christian
are.
Ponder is the be all end all. And yes, Tim Tebow did do that. Sean
Yeah, but
Hill
your
hasn't even done
argument-
that. Sean
Your
Hill
argument
hasn't
for
done
Christian
that.
Ponder is, well, he led a team to the playoffs.
Sure.
Well, so did Tim Tebow, and he stinks.
Okay, so what does that say about Sean Hill that he can't even get a fucking sniff in this league as a
Because he
starting
was
quarterback?
a first-round pick.
Yeah, remember when the Rams started him for 9 games in 2014 and said, "No, we're good. We'll pass on you coming back to the Rams in 2015." And then he went and played backup to Bridgewater in the Vikings.
And why did they get rid of him?
Why did they get? Tell me, Ben. Tell me why they got rid of him.
Sam Bradford, maybe.
Okay.
They just traded for Nick Foles.
What, in 2015? Didn't Sam Bradford play for the Eagles last year? And yeah, they
He
traded
was
for Nick
traded
Foles.
for Nick Foles, who they expected to be the starter.
Cool. So the Rams looked at his body of work that is supposed to be, hey, he might be okay.
They traded for a guy who had 27 touchdowns and 2 interceptions.
I understand that, but what I'm telling you is if what he did was actually worth a shit in 2014, they wouldn't have traded for him. They've been like, cool, we're going to ride the Sean Hill train. But they chose not to. I'm not saying Ponder, I'm not saying Tebow are like the be-all, end-all, but don't sit here and tell me that Sean Hill's worth a crap. He's not.
I didn't.
They're
I said
gonna be
he's better
the
than
Vikings.
Christian Ponder.
He's not better than Christian Ponder.
I'll
Because
be
if he
honest.
was better than Christian Ponder, he'd have at least 1 full season of starts under his belt.
All right.
No, that's
Real-
not a fair argument because Christian Ponder was a first-round pick. You knew he was going to start at some point anyway.
Matt, jump in.
Okay. Two points I want to make. First point, I'm clearly not getting enough airtime tonight. And second point is, honestly didn't think this was going to turn into a Sean Hill, Christian Ponder debate. I mean, this one I think for the sake of wrapping this up in a timely fashion, they're both terrible. They're both pretty shitty.
They are pretty terrible.
And either way, the Vikings are in a rough spot when it comes to their quarterback play right now.
Yeah,
It is about half the league.
Yes.
So a team that's got a great defense and a great running back is still better than a lot of other teams in the league. Not saying they're going to make the playoffs. I'm saying they're going to probably at least they'll be in contention. They'll win 8 or 9 games.
Who, the
will put 'em
Vikings?
which will put them in contention for a wild card spot.
I will take the under heavily on that.
Okay, how many wins do you think they're going to have, Scott?
6.
So 2 less wins is heavily.
I would gladly gamble on the under. Is what I mean. I know it's not a large number under, but
Well, they
I
have
would
4
be willing
games
to
against
bet
the Bears and the
heavily
Lions.
on the under.
So that's probably 4 wins. I'd have to look at their schedule. I don't remember who else they play. I think their defense and their running game alone. I mean, the Vikings have been successful. They've made the playoffs with this formula that they currently have. The only difference is Adrian Peterson is now, 5 years older than he was? So remember Christian Ponder had a in-prime Adrian Peterson running with him? Did Scott just freeze? I think Scott froze.
You're cutting out.
You may have.
I think you're freezing, Scott.
Am I
You hear me?
freezing?
Yeah,
You did for a second.
Scott's freezing up a little bit
All right,
right
I
now.
think I'm freezing, so I'm gonna jump out and jump back in.
Wait, aren't you recording? I don't think you can. Well, we'll keep talking. I guess. Can you hear me, Matt?
There, you both were sort of like cutting out a little bit, but like Scott completely froze up there. So
Okay. I can hear you now, but I couldn't hear you a second ago.
okay,
Can you hear me now?
yeah, I could hear it. You sound crystal clear. So
Okay.
well, I'm sure this makes for great podcasting, by the way. But
It happens.
yeah. So, anyways, to move on from what became one crazy little storyline there with Sean Hill and Christian Ponder, I think we should go ahead and move on to. I think we'll do Tebow first, and then we'll wrap this up with.
Yes,
the,
we're gonna do Tebow first and wrap this up. But really quick, the Vikings aren't winning 6 games. Are gonna win maybe 6 games.
I would take the over on 6.
Matt, note this under the Major League Baseball stuff because there's not a chance in hell Minnesota's winning more than 6 games.
All right, it's going in my phone.
Okay, 6.5. Ben, is 6.5.
Just for the record, the year that Christian Ponder led the Vikings to the playoffs, Adrian Peterson ran for 2,100 yards.
Awesome. And I'm saying,
So I mean, it's obviously a hypothetical because we have no way of proving it, but I would venture guess and say a lot of quarterbacks could have led the Vikings to the playoffs when your running back runs for 2,100 yards.
Well, I'll tell you what, Sean Hill is not going to lead the Vikings to the playoffs this year because I am looking at it and
I didn't say they were. I said they would compete for a spot. So
no. I got 5 at best on this schedule.
5 wins? Okay, I'll take the over.
So let's set it at 5.5.
Sure, I'll take the over.
All right, cool. Ben's taking the
Yeah.
over at 5.5.
Got it. It is down.
All right, cool. Tim Tebow. The report I heard today was that Tim Tebow looked like an actor trying to learn how to be a baseball player. And I am really proud of the fact that the team that I cheer for didn't even send a scout to that whatever that was today.
Yeah, there were 3 teams that didn't. The Giants, Cubs, and was it the A's?
Well, I guess I saw somewhere too that they didn't confirm the A's weren't there. So the only 2 confirmed were Giants and Cubs.
That makes me happy. I don't know why it makes me happy, but there's just no need to bring that on your team.
No. I mean,
Yeah,
I like
He's
couldn't
30
you,
years old.
Yeah, like couldn't you see though, like a team like the White Sox signing him just for the sake?
If you have a minor league affiliate that's floundering right now, I don't know how you don't sign Tim Tebow. Right? Like if your minor league team is just bleeding money, isn't that the quick answer?
Yeah, I mean,
Doesn't that right? Like that's it, isn't it?
but I don't think there's very many minor league teams that bleed money.
I agree, but I
honest.
mean, but if you wanted to
But
maybe
no, I mean, if you're looking,
hit a little
if you're
cash
looking
cow
to
for
like,
a couple weeks,
yeah, especially if you're a team that's based in Florida, like, could you imagine
yeah.
that? I mean, if you're any of those minor league teams down there, like, I could only imagine you would just end up raking at least for the first like couple of weeks.
for sure.
But he's not.
So.
Like, he looked awful in a situation that's simulated and is supposed to make him look outstanding, and he wasn't.
The biggest takeaway I saw that somebody had said was, yeah, his swing might look nice, but he doesn't use his legs. They said it's all upper body with him, that he doesn't drive with his legs at all, which I don't understand. I mean, from Little League, and I mean even smaller than that, you know, the T-ball, you're learning to use your lower half as well. And they also said his arm from the outfield, surprise, surprise, wasn't that great. So
Really?
Yeah, shocking, right?
You mean the guy who couldn't throw a football 10 yards
Yeah.
is struggling to throw a baseball,
God.
whatever,
Yeah.
300 feet?
I don't get why this guy's still relevant. And the worst
You
part is like he was on SEC Network. He wasn't terrible. Like he fit in just fine there. Like he did an okay
Oh,
job
I
analyzing.
I thought he was surprisingly good at it. Like
Like he could have ridden that gravy train for 50
Mhm.
years.
Yeah.
Did you guys? I don't know if you listen to Boris and Bernstein at all, but Bernstein had the. I don't know if it was a rumor or if he heard it or if it was just his idea that he's doing this basically for like a TV show, like down the road.
So
Like
that came from a Fox Sports guy. And the Fox Sports guy reported a bunch of stuff today that Tebow's selfish, that Tebow had an offer on the table from John Elway. Elway was going to trade him to either the Jets or the Jaguars. And Tebow chose the Jets for the larger media market, even though the Jaguars were going to give him a legit opportunity to play.
Hmm.
And then he's very much a me guy. So like it's all and that this is all about a ploy to get like cameras to follow him in a minor league camp for a reality TV show. So that all came from like a Fox
reality TV show.
Yeah, so that all came from a Fox guy. So Bernstein played that, and then that's what that was. That's where that's all from. So go ahead, continue, Ben.
No, that was it. That was all I had.
Oh, okay. So I wanted to clarify where that came from because it wasn't from Bernstein. It was from a Fox Sports guy reporting it himself. So, I listen. I don't hate Tim Tebow like some people do. I just like the circus that surrounds somebody that hasn't done much.
Mhm.
Yeah, he was good in college. He's really good in college. Which
He was really, and we're going to talk about that later. I mean, he was awesome, but I mean, it's just his skills don't translate to the NFL, which is just so odd to me. How college stuff doesn't translate to the NFL so often.
It's just it's the system. I mean, you're going to see it with Goff. Like Goff's going to struggle. I mean, you think about it. Goff has never called a play in a huddle before
Yeah.
until preseason football. Like that kind of stuff matters. I mean, when you're not used to seeing things, you're not used to running, specific offenses. Like it takes a while to adjust to. I mean, that's why you got this. How many quarterbacks now are getting drafted? Especially you get these run and gun offenses these quarterbacks aren't taking snaps from under center. Like that just doesn't work in the NFL.
Yeah.
I mean, eventually you need to get under center and take that snap. I get it, but I'm just surprised. I don't know. Yeah, I'm just surprised how few translate to the NFL at this point. We had this conversation before. I don't want to get into it too much, but just the dying quarterback position is what it's leading to. So.
Mm-hmm.
For sure. I have no idea how long we've been going, but I imagine it's been a little bit. So we're gonna kill the Tebow talk, jump over to college football. It starts Thursday, guys. We're a couple days away.
Technically, it started.
Yeah, I was gonna say it started.
Yeah,
over the
you're
weekend.
right. It did.
That
It
game
did
in
start.
Australia.
But here we go. It's season time, and Ben, you put down in the predictions like in our thing, like who's gonna go to the title game, and it's just like Alabama, probably.
It'll come down to me. It's gonna come down to obviously. I think Oklahoma's gonna get into the playoffs at least.
I just don't see it.
I like their quarterback. That's the only reason why.
I hear you, but
at the beginning of the season, you just go quarterbacks to me, or Alabama, who doesn't have a quarterback, but it's still Alabama.
I worry about for Oklahoma. They play Houston,
I guess I forgot
TCU and Ohio State.
TCU has the Texas A&M transfer, right?
Quarterback?
Yeah, Kenny Hill or something like that.
Yeah.
That guy, yeah.
So I forgot about him. But to me, it's going to come down to that Alabama, LSU. I think they play. I don't.
Yes, they're in the same division.
So I know it's going to come down to the Alabama, LSU, and the Clemson, Florida State game. That's what I think.
And I think Oklahoma, if they can run that gauntlet early,
that's true.
I think you're absolutely right. But that
I do think
gauntlet,
I think Ohio State is going to be my. I mean, they're ranked 6th, So take it for what it is when I say sleeper team. I think they're being overlooked a lot. I mean, because they lost so many guys, but one thing we know, Urban Meyer can reload. They still have J.T. Barrett coming back at quarterback. I'm
That's
not
like
gonna count
to
them
me,
out.
JT Barrett is such like a sleeper everything. Because remember how like he was poised to be the Heisman guy. What was that? 2 years ago? Would have been.
Well, he was a freshman 2 years ago,
Yeah.
and he had that like outstanding season,
Mhm.
and then
And
he got hurt last year.
yeah, and everybody was like, "Dude, JT Barrett's like the real deal. He's going to be that Heisman frontrunner." Like, that's the thing. That's what scares me about Ohio State is that he's such a wild card because you know how good he could
The
be.
whole
So
team is because they
yeah.
lost so many people.
And like that's the thing. Like you've got all these teams. Like I'm looking at the AP top 25 right now.
Yep.
Like you have Florida State and Clemson. That Ben, like you said, they're going to have to battle each other. So that's more than likely the winner of that's more than likely going to be a playoff team. Alabama and LSU, one of those two teams.
Matt, you're a Florida State guy. Are they playing in the regular season?
Yeah,
Florida, they're in the same.
pretty early too, isn't it?
Yeah, it's like week 4 or 5, I think.
Week 4 or 5 they play.
And they can't play for the ACC title because they're on the same side.
Yeah, they're the same.
I will say
So there is a
division or whatever.
chance that if that's like a 35-31 game, and then the other team runs the table, one of them could get in.
Mhm.
Both of them could get in.
Yeah, I mean it's plausible, but it seems.
I will
unlikely.
say this: I think, and I don't know if I'm going to explain this the right way, but if Florida State wins that game, I mean, Florida State is definitely a team I could see losing again, just because of their quarterback situation.
Mhm.
Whereas if Clemson wins that game, I don't know that they can lose again.
I think you've explained it perfectly.
Just that game is going to decide Clemson's season, whereas Florida State can eliminate Clemson, but they still have an uphill battle just because I think there are still enough questions on them, specifically at the quarterback position. I think Delvin Cook, say what you want about Leonard Fournette, I think Delvin Cook is he's right up there with him.
Yeah, he's at that same level, or should be.
He's unbelievable. I will say,
Oh, go ahead.
Is Michigan State overrated? Or Michigan overrated? Anybody?
I actually talked to Matt about this. I think Michigan's your sleeper team this year.
I just don't like.
Year
maybe
two of
because I just-
Harbaugh.
But I don't even know who they like. Who are their big prospects? Like, you know what I mean? Like, I know like LSU's defense is unbelievable, and they're just like loaded with young studs. Obviously, I know like key players and all these other teams, but Michigan, I look and I go, I don't know if I can name their quarterback, their running back. I don't know if I can name a receiver.
Yeah, I mean, listen.
They got that Jake Budd or whatever the hell his name is.
Yeah,
the
and tight
end.
end to whatever.
So looking here real quick, Florida State, Ben, you said the concern is the Clemson game. Clemson game for them is actually their 8th game of the year.
Yeah, it's their last game of October.
Florida State, it's not hard, but it's not easy, right?
Well, and it's just
open against Ole Miss. They got at Louisville, at South Florida, which South Florida's been bad lately.
like I think the Louisville game is going to be a real big test. See, for them, their issue is, Sean McGuire got hurt, who I thought McGuire played their starting quarterback last year. I thought played pretty well, but then they got this DeAndre Francois is their starter because McGuire's hurt. So, and I know very little about DeAndre Francois, which I just like saying that name. Say it out loud. It's fun. Say it. DeAndre Francois.
Francois.
See, it makes you feel cool.
It really does. Ben,
The biggest ones.
who's your biggest sleeper, Ben? I mean, and let's get away from Ohio. Like, I think your 5 favorites right now to win each conference are Alabama, Clemson for Florida State's a toss-up, Oklahoma from the Big 12, Ohio State from the Big 10, and then Stanford from the Pac-12, right? So,
I think the Pac-12 is going to be a giant dumpster fire.
I don't think they're going to make the playoffs. So, get away from those 6 that I just listed, right? So now you're looking at LSU. Can LSU beat Alabama?
Yeah, I mean they can.
Beat Ohio State. Is Tennessee remotely real again?
That blows my mind that they're top 10 in both polls. I didn't realize they were considered that good.
Again, I think they're ranked because they have Dobbs, who's now going to be a third-year starter at quarterback. I think they get a lot of praise because of the you see it all the time. It's when the freshman quarterback starts, they start building it up, and by the time it's his sophomore, junior, senior season, these teams are perennial winners. I still think that conference is just unbelievably hard.
Well, here's the thing for Tennessee, though. Let's go through the schedule. Appalachian State, okay. Virginia Tech, they're not even ranked. Ohio, Florida, at Georgia, that's tough. At A&M, that can be tough. Home for Alabama. That's the stretch, right? That's the entire season for them. That's daunting, but then you get out of that stretch at South Carolina. Not easy, but not exactly backbreaking. Tennessee Tech, home for Kentucky, home for Missouri, at Vanderbilt. It's a tough three-week stretch in the middle of October.
Like, the SEC is notorious for those, this team just upset Alabama, and then next week they lose to, Vanderbilt or something like that. No question. So, that's what I'm saying. Even if they get that, Houston, their defense scares me, but they're
set up well, right? You beat Oklahoma, and you run the table. How do you keep them out?
Yeah, no, I agree. I think this year seems like it's one of those years that's not going to be wide open, but something tells me it's going to be a lot more wide open than we think, just because, even Alabama, they still haven't named a quarterback, if I'm not mistaken. So, say what you want about them. At the end of the day, if they don't have somebody who's at least halfway decent at the quarterback position, which we say this, I think, every year, how these teams can't recruit a quarterback is absolutely beyond me.
Isn't it nuts? It really is. That the best quarterback they've had in the last 15 years was A.J. McCarron.
A.J. McCarron and his hot girlfriend.
And that's saying a lot. And his full body tattoos.
Yeah.
You know that? He has, his chest is, it's all covered by his shirt, but he has, a full body tattoo.
All right, so here's what we're going to do to wrap up our talk and close out the podcast tonight. Ben and Matt, who is your national champion that you really think is going to happen, and who's the team that that can come out of nowhere to win the national championship? So, Ben, who's winning the national championship?
I'm going to go Clemson.
Okay. And who's the team that's outside of the six that I kind of talked about, and maybe not even the six, outside of Clemson, Florida State, and Alabama, and Oklahoma? Who's your one that you'd be like, okay, that team, they can win it?
I know I'm gonna regret saying it, and not regret saying it. I have a feeling I'm gonna say it, and they're gonna lose 5 games. I'm gonna say Georgia.
Good call. Love it. Love the pick. Maddie.
I'm going Alabama. Hard to really go against them. And then in terms of teams outside, God, this is tough. Sort of off the wall pick. I'm just gonna go with Stanford, just because of Christian McCaffrey.
Okay.
I went with Georgia because of Nick Chubb, so I can't really blame you there.
So of the top 4, I'm gonna go Oklahoma, just because if they can survive that first stretch when they're going to be their healthiest, they should be able to run the table in the Big 12. And I love that they don't have a national championship game and would go undefeated and still be able to go, but look, we beat Ohio State, TCU, and Houston. Right? So I love that. So I'm going to go Oklahoma for my champion out of that main group. And then I'm going to stick with Michigan. I think Michigan, a lot of people I think are going to pick them as well, but I think they're going to get over the hump that is Ohio State. They're going to win the Big Ten. I think Harbaugh is just that much better of a coach than everybody else. The guy just goes everywhere and is successful. And that Michigan team was supposed to be dog shit last year. And they lost, if I'm not mistaken, a close one to Utah. And
a botched snap against Michigan State.
And then they were blown out at the end of the season by Ohio State. So maybe that's more telling. But I mean, they were there. They were in the discussion.
Well, yeah,
So.
I won't argue that because Ohio State is the sneaky pick there just because you literally have no idea what this Ohio State team is going to be, and then the rest of the Big Ten is trash. So.
Is it fair to say that Urban Meyer is the best recruiter in the nation, but Jim Harbaugh might be the best X's and O guy?
I mean, I would imagine.
Saban and Meyer.
Yeah, I was gonna say Saban's got to be in there,
right? But that's like if you were any school and you could go get any coach, like that's 1, 2, 3, isn't it?
I think Les Miles got to be in there.
Higher than Harbaugh.
Fleck.
Row the boat.
I think they're interchangeable, but yeah, I mean, I wouldn't disagree with your 3, but I mean, Les Miles is so unbelievably good, and he runs.
I can't believe LSU almost got rid of him.
Yeah, that was asinine. Who are you going to get that's better?
Stupidest thing ever.
Who would you get that's better?
Nobody.
There is nobody.
Bob's
Rod Carey.
The old.
Yeah,
and I'm not saying, and I don't know that Bob Stoops is better necessarily.
But that's the only guy that you can be like,
Stoops,
okay, we got rid of Les Miles, at least we got Bob Stoops.
Right, and you can sell that to your fans as like, this guy, I mean, he's won a national championship, right? Oklahoma's won a national championship, right?
Yeah, they won that really shitty game. It was like 12-8.
Was that the 13-2 against
something
13-2 against Florida State? Yeah.
Yeah.
So, all right. So there's our football stuff. We'll probably talk a little more college football stuff on the top 10 college football players we've loved to watch as we've grown up. Any closing thought from either of you?
Christian Ponder sucks dicks.
Not as big as Sean Hill. Cubs are down to 18. And Matthew?
I got nothing.
Matt's got nothing. So for Ben Russo, Matt Urich, Christian Ponder, and that asshat Sean Hill, I'm Scott Sternal. Thank you so much for listening. We will be... Oh, there it is. We'll be posting this sometime on Tuesday, and we'll have our top 10 players posted sometime Thursday. So thanks for listening. Have a great rest of your week.